Welcome to Royal Legacy, where we will explore the rich athletic history and deep family connections of BYU sports. Join us as we honor the past, celebrate the present, and look forward to the future of the BYU Cougars. Here's your host, Lauren McClain.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Lauren McClain, and this is Royal Legacy, where we dive deep into the family connections of BYU sports. Joining me this week is the 1984 championship running back, the Turban Tongo Lakei Heimuli, and his sons, BYUtv Sports Producer Hema, and former Stanford and BYU fullback Houston. All right, let's talk about the influence real quick that BYU has had on your family and how it's impacted the Heimuli family. Hema, how was BYU viewed in your family growing up? Did you guys go to a lot of games? What was that like?
We didn't go to a lot of games, mostly because they're expensive, and we lived in Bountiful, so it's quite a trip to come down to Provo. But we did watch a lot of games on TV and stuff, and and mostly, a lot of the stories and the games that we watched growing up were old games that our dad or Hema played in, or Vi and stuff like that. So, I would say out of the family, I was the biggest BYU fan, mostly because I was around it the longest.
Yeah,
just by
that makes sense.
Oldest,
Houston, when you think about BYU, what comes to your mind first?
Dang, that's a lot of stuff. Honestly, BYU, what comes to my mind is just family. In the most cliche-ish senses. It really is. I mean, we grew up on it. And even when I was at Stanford, I still was rooting for BYU. I was always a blue blood, and I always will be a blue blood. It's ingrained in our family. So,
Lakei, what does the Polynesian Pipeline and having Kalani Sitake at the helm of the program right now mean to you?
It means a lot. I think if you look at the years that I was here, the Polynesian Pipeline was what's the word I'm looking for? Was essential to BYU's success. And Lavell and Noam Chow did a great job recruiting the players out of Hawaii. You look at Coach Lavell, Louis Wong,
yeah.
Anais and all those guys were, and then it caused the Hawaii to hate us because Lavell and Noam Chow will come in and take all the best players, and then they, but now it's the pipeline is because a lot of athletes in the islands are going to the Big 12s, and I think. And so is the members, and I think if BYU concentrate on the members, recruiting the members, I think they'll have success. Kind of like what Lavell and Noam Chow and them did.
Yeah,
they went after the members. With the money that these athletes are making now, it's unreal. So they'll go to wherever the money is. Depends. It all depends. But if they have solid foundation growing up in the church and stuff, and and then I think that they can tap into that to the members. It's always good to tap into the members.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think Kalani's great at that exact thing. On his show that I produce and stuff, he is not shy about sharing the gospel-oriented principles that he learned in not only his culture but from Lavell and at this school. And so yeah, I think that, like you were saying, it would be helpful in recruiting the Poly Pipeline.
And he's restoring a lot of it. It's just having a Tongan coach in general brings a lot of notoriety within the community.
Absolutely.
And he's a very charismatic guy. He's not a very silent. He's out there, and he's very well-spoken as well. So I think all those qualities together with what he's doing here at BYU is helping that community and raising that pipeline.
I love that guy. Lakei, I want to know, because you brought it up a little bit. What do you feel like you would have done with NIL had they had it back in your day? what would you have gone somewhere else? Would you have still chosen BYU?
Oh, I wouldn't have eaten as much salmon back then.
What was that, 87-cent burrito? That's why we had to do better stuff than that.
I don't know. It's a different. Yeah. I can't compare it to anything because it's a different time.
Yeah.
In recruiting in football, I think when we won the national champ and everybody wanted to change the Power 5, make the Power 5, and I think they changed. Money started coming into to the sports, and I think it just ruined it.
Yeah.
And I would have liked to have a little bit more in my check when I was at BYU, but but it's a different time. I just can't imagine getting that kind of money to play college.
Yeah. Different world.
Different world, yeah.
All right, guys, it's time. We asked the fans what questions they had for the Heimuli men, and we got some good ones. I'm excited. All right. Josh Pugmire asks, who grows the best facial hair in the family?
Oh, it's got to be me.
Which is so great because all three of you have a great beard right now.
Well, I've had the least amount of practice, and it just came from BYU. But mine looks pretty good for
it does look
first
good.
time.
It's pretty full.
Our dad has nice.
Okay.
It's that little white and black mix.
A little salt and pepper.
Distinguished.
A little salt and pepper. He also wants to know who had the fastest 40 in their prime.
Lakei.
It's got to be Lakei, right?
Close. Yeah. You see my pro day? Yeah, not very far.
What about Heaven though? She seems like she got some fire in her.
She would have been.
Yeah, Heaven's pretty quick.
Okay, favorite coach you've ever worked with, and this can be for all three of you. Hema, we'll start this way, and then we'll go over.
Man, I don't know. Probably my high school coach, Coach Jones. He was great.
Okay.
For me at the time.
Yeah, I'd say Lavell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, what about for you?
I've had a lot of coaches, so I really did enjoy BYU with Kalani. He made it really feel like a home. It was cool and it was fun. So Kalani, David Shaw was great, but I think my high school coach is what made me really, he's the one that's like, hey, you can get some offers, but you just need a chance. And so, Coach Larry Wall from Bountiful gave me a lot of shots, and I'm always thankful for that.
He instilled that confidence in you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's huge. All right, last one from him. If you guys could go back and do it all over again, would you still play football or do something like rugby, basketball, or just a different position in football? Let's go this way. Let's start with Houston.
So here's the funny stories. I did play rugby in high school.
Okay.
This was like my junior or senior year, and I was, this is when I was getting looked at. But then I hurt my ankles. I got some double sprained ankles, and I just remember my dad's like, no more rugby.
I'll share a story too about your rugby. I don't know if we were married at the time or if we were just dating or whatever, but we were pretty serious, me and my wife. And we watched Houston play a game, and in that game, one person broke their arm, another guy had a deep gash over his head, another person tore their ACL or something like that. And my wife turns into our kids are never playing rugby. I'm like, okay.
As Houston's rocking his all blacks hat right now.
I know, right now.
Yeah.
But what was the original question?
So
again?
would you do something other than football, or would you play a different position in football if you could do it all over again?
Honestly, I loved my experience. And I love the fact that fullbacks aren't used very much.
Yeah, that's true.
Feels like kind of like a badge of honor. I played this. So
feels like a club.
Yeah. I also don't think I'm fast enough to play anything else. So I've loved I love where I'm at, what I did.
Awesome. What about you, Lucky?
I grew up playing rugby, and then I think rugby was still a good sport. I love rugby, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Football, I ended up playing football in Hawaii and get to love it, and then with football makes me who I am today. Everybody recognized me through football, but yeah, I would love to play rugby, but football.
That's just a testament of how rough rugby is, right? When you're telling your son, please play football. Don't play rugby. That's crazy. Would you have done anything else, Hema?
Oh, well, after my dad's answer, I feel kind of bad. I would have golfed, man. I tore my hamstring. I tore up my shoulder. I got beat up.
That's true, you did.
I would have avoided all that just playing golf.
Just play golf. That's right. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we'll have more from the Heimulis. This is Royal Legacy.
And now back to Royal Legacy and your host, Lauren McClain.
You would need a little NIL money, though, to get into that.
That's true.
All right. Jake Bosley, I think you know him, Hema, asks, Hema, if you had the opportunity to coach football again, would you?
Yes. I mean, I look forward to coaching Hendricks, my son.
Yeah.
When he plays like real football. So yeah, I would say that.
Okay. Lakei, how much did your dad help you on your football journey, and how much was expected of you from him?
I tell you, my dad was a typical Polynesian dad. Very proud. Don't say anything. Stand on the sideline, and just that he's supporting you by him being on the sideline. He doesn't give you any points or anything on what to do, but just being there on the sideline, I think that's that quiet just makes you feel good.
Hey, but also sending you to the church university is another way he influenced you. He was all about that.
Yeah. All right, this one's for Houston and Hema from Kelly Amison. What does it mean for you to have a dad who was one of the OG running back greats at BYU? Let's start with Hema.
Oh, it's awesome. I love it. Like, that's one thing, like, that's a core part of who we are, I think. At least the siblings, right? The kids, our dad's kids. Like, we are very proud of the fact that he was such an awesome runner and that he represented this university. And, like, yeah, it's like who we are.
Yeah, I agree. And it's kind of the you don't want to let that name down almost. Like, you have a dad who set everything up for you. Like, he probably did the worst part of it, and here I am reaping the benefits, and it's kind of like, am I going to make this worse or better? And it's hard being in the shadow of this dude, because I go to, I'll go see doctors, I'll go see random people. They're just like, oh, Heimuli. Oh, your dad, Lakei. And then some even like, 100%. Oh, Heimuli, I follow you on Twitter. That's Hema. If you're on Twitter, Hema. If it's in life, Lakei. So I'm kind of just squishing this middle ground. But it's one of those things. So.
Hey, I've gotten off a lot of speeding tickets because of my last name. I think
speeding ticket, Houston.
But for reals though, like, you don't want to let that name down. So, like, that name on the back of our jerseys is like the most important thing to us.
And Houston, I don't think you give yourself enough credit, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate
for how well you've done. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, with the name, Harrison's in Tongan now, and then still people coming up to him and say, oh, how you related to Lakei, So they still remember, in the church community, they know the Heimulis because of BYU.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Everybody knows that name. All right, we're getting into it with Scott King on X here. He says, how are we getting to the top of the Big 12? He wants your opinion on all three of them.
How do we do it?
Yeah, how do you do it,
Scott,
Hema? Answer it.
Scott, even if we knew the answer, we wouldn't tell you for free. Are you kidding me?
People get paid for this.
I would, I'm going to get paid if I knew that answer.
Okay, Lakei, you mentioned going after some members of the church. That's one of the things you mentioned earlier in the interview. Right. What do you think? What advice would you give Kalani on year 2 of the Big 12? That's hard.
It is hard, but I don't know. I said just win.
Yeah.
It's a great answer.
That is a good answer.
Yeah,
it's just, winning fixes everything. And that's, I remember our dad telling us that. Winning fixes everything. You could have the worst game of your life. If you won, you're like, it's over. Wipe the slate clean. Do better next game or whatever. Winning fixes everything.
Mm-hmm. So. Scott, there's your answer. How do you get to the top of the Big 12? You win.
Just win.
There you go.
It's a cultural thing, though. Like, it definitely is. If your team has an attitude to win, they will win. Even coming off a bum season sometimes, even when I was at Stanford, came off a bad season. If your attitude was, oh, that season was bad. Oh, here's another one. You're going to lose.
Yeah.
But if you come off that season, you come off a good spring ball, strong, and your team is ready, you will win games, especially teams you shouldn't be winning against.
Yeah.
And BYU can do that, but Kalani has to continue to instill a confidence in his group.
I think he's trying to do a good job with building up that morale. Mm-hmm. The team has to come together, and I think he's facilitating some of the things to make the team together.
Especially his hires. Like, he's hired some great assistant coaches.
Yeah, so. And then when we in '84 season, we had players where I was the starter, and then I never had any experience in Division I college football, and then we had a ragtag team come together in '84, but we love each other. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. When you start if you make a mistake, and we did make a lot of mistakes that year. We did. I fumbled a lot. Bosco threw a lot of interceptions. But when you come to the sideline and the defense said, "Don't worry about it. We're gonna get the ball back," and that kind of it makes you feel better. And then when the defense starts struggling, we say, "Hey, don't worry about it. Just stop. Just make one stop, and then we'll score." I think Wyoming game, we were going back and forth, and the defense was just having a hard time stopping Wyoming running shoot offense. And then we said, okay, if we can just stop them one time, the offense, we'll get it done. And then I think that kind of togetherness and if you build up that cohesiveness in the team and the players to not so selfish.
Yeah.
Instead of blaming,
And I think Kalani is trying to get that instilled in his team right now. If they get together and work together, it doesn't matter what kind of talent you have. You can beat anybody with if you stay together and love each other.
I mean, the '84 team, it was a rebuilding year, right? Because
'83
had all the talent.
Yeah.
And a lot of them left. I remember something Vi told me that like Lavell told you guys, and it was something to the effect of like Lavell's concerned with building champions, and the championships will come, with that.
Right.
So I think Kalani is trying to build champions right now, and it's hard.
Yeah, it's not.
And it's even more difficult with NIL and all the different things that make players a little more selfish. And you can't blame them. It's very difficult, but that makes Kalani's job a heck of a lot harder.
It makes it a lot harder. With the money. Oh. It's make it difficult.
But he's doing, I think, the best job he can.
Yeah.
And you can probably chime in, I think what he's doing is similar to Lavell. He builds a great program around him. He's building a lot of bringing in great coaches, great players, and you almost want to be autopilot. You almost want these coaches to coach their guys and these guys to coach themselves.
Yeah.
And that's I think a hallmark of a great coach. I think Kalani is trying to do that here.
Yeah, getting the J Hills, getting the J Hills, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
All right, Rust on X. We have 2 more questions, guys. Here we go. For Lakei, what was the talk in the huddles like in the fourth quarter against Michigan in the 1984 Holiday Bowl, being down 17-10? Robbie was limping badly after injuring his leg, and the Wolverines were surely licking their chops. So what was the conversation like in that huddle? Do you remember?
There was not a whole lot of conversation. Robbie Bosco did all the talking. He said, "Just give me time. I'll throw the ball," and we just kind of, try to pick each other up, in the huddle, but not a whole lot of talking. Well, the only one that was talking was Glenn Goslowski. I remember Glenn.
He always does a lot of talking.
He doesn't stop talking. Let's be honest.
The only thing that I remember was Glenn because I'm going to be open. So
Glenn was kind of like white
open.
noise because he was always talking. Just white noise in the background.
Yeah, but everybody else was quiet in the huddle. We just listened to Robbie and see what he's telling us. But yeah.
All right, the last question for you guys. Andres on X said, "What is the best counsel Lavell ever gave you?"
The best counsel he gave me was don't put all your eggs in one basket.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'll tell you a story, like a short story about. So I ran into Coach Edwards when I was in 2014. I was working in the Sky Club at Delta, or in the airport, and in came Coach Edwards and Patty, and I got up out of my desk and ran straight over there. And he was old. He was at the older stage of life at that point. And I introduced myself. I shook his hand, and I said, going back to the last name thing, I was like, "Oh, my name is Heimulis Heimuli. I'm Lakei's son." And his eyes lit up, and they were so bright. And he was just like, "Oh, how's your mom and how's your dad doing?" And and then I said hi to Patty, and she's like, "Oh, how's Panya, our mom?" and stuff like that. And anyways, it's not necessarily advice, but a lesson through example is that Lavell truly loved his players, our dad included, and even towards the end of his life, he remembered them and he cherished those relationships. And so I've tried personally to cherish the relationships I have with people and family and things like that. So.
And Patty as well.
Yeah.
Did such a good job with that. Well, you guys are awesome. Hopefully that wasn't too painful for you all.
I was waiting for the question about which Heimuli son is handsome.
Oh yeah, there was. Yeah. You're right. I don't know who asked it.
We don't have to talk about it.
I don't know who asked it, but someone did ask on Twitter. One of you two, I think. Thanks again to Lakei Hema and Houston Heimuli for coming on the show with me. Carter Bond and Tori Kimball helped produce this episode with senior producer Terry South. You can join the Royal Legacy wherever you get your podcasts on Apple, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, or on BYURadio.org. Royal Legacy is a production of BYU Broadcasting.